Welcome everybody, this is Mr. Storm, and in this video we're actually going to get started making 3D games in Unity. That's right, you get to make 3D games. I'm so excited, I cannot wait. So the first step is going to be making sure you have the newest version of Unity. So as of the recording of this video, the newest version is 2020.1.4F1. If you don't have that version, you can go ahead and download it through the Unity Hub. It shouldn't require administrator access, so if you're sitting at the computer in the computer lab, you should be able to install this on your own. If it does require administrator access, let me know. I can help you out. If you're working from home and you don't have the Unity Hub installed on your computer, obviously do that. You need to create an account with Unity, and then you need to attach your license, which is a free license, to Unity. But you should already know how to do that from Game Development 1. All right, then we want to create our a new project and make it 3D. So if you go New, make sure you have 3D selected, give it a name, and choose a location for that game to exist on your hard drive. I'm just so excited, I can't wait. Now I already have a Unity project open here. Now in this video I just really quickly want to talk about the differences between 2D and 3D when it comes to you're already familiar with 2D. Now we want to talk about the differences in 3D, and especially how do you move around in the world. So that's going to be really important for us to understand. The first thing you'll notice is that the view is a bit different. You have kind of like this hazy horizon here, and there's this sky above and this gray earth below. This is essentially what's called the skybox. And so the skybox itself is going to dictate, what it looks like in the sky and what the under the level looks like as well. So the skybox, the default skybox in Unity3D is pretty good, and it's the one we're going to use for the next couple of projects, but you will be able to change your own skybox later on as we get to more customizable projects. Sorry. The other thing you will notice is that up here we have our perspective tool, and this has Y, X, and Z axes on them. And if you click on one of these, it will orient your view to that axis. So if I want to only look at the Z axis, I can do that. If I want to look at the X axis, I can do that. If I want to look at the Y axis, I can also change my perspective here as well. So I'm actually going to rotate back around to the front like I was. That looks close enough to where it was but to begin with. Okay, now how do I move around in this? Well, in Unity 2D, we got used to using the right mouse click to really kind of just move around, right? Well, with the right mouse click in 3D, if you click and hold, then you can basically pan and pivot your view like you're in a first-person shooter. You can basically look around. Now, the nice thing is, while you're holding the right mouse button, you can use WASD to kind of move around your environment, just like a first-person shooter. And you can float above your objects. You can just kind of move in and out. This is my preferred control scheme. This is how I usually move around in 3D in Unity, but you'll find things that you enjoy. You'll find ways that you like to move around. All right, let's talk about the objects here. So with Unity 2D, we had a main camera that was always in our level, and that is the same here, except now the main camera, you can see this perspective guide here that shows you exactly the viewpoint of the camera itself. Right, and we can see that it's looking off into the abyss. There's nothing there, so there's really nothing to pay attention to. The other thing that we have by default in every Unity 3D project is a directional light. Now, the best part about this directional light is that it's really easy for us to get the lighting we want in the scene. You can come over here to the inspector. You can change it to a spotlight if you want, and it will show you exactly where that spot will point. You can change it to a point light, which is basically like an orb, and then it glows around the orb, right? And we can kind of see that here. There's an orb. We can add as many lights to a scene as we want. Usually you want to keep a directional light. If you do an area light, then you have to bake in that lighting, and it can take some time when you're trying to render your video. So we're just going to go directional. You can change the color of your light here. So if you want it to have more of a cooler feel and have more of a bluish light, you can do that. And depending on the coloring of your game, you may want to do that. Baked and real time for lighting mode. This isn't really that big of a deal right now because we only have one light in this project. When we get to more advanced lighting, we're going to talk a bit about how to optimize our lighting mode so that whenever we're testing our game, it's not spending all day baking. And by baking, I mean it's got to render those assets in order for us to see what they look like. Okay. We can change the intensity, all kinds of stuff. We can change the shadows, hard shadows, soft shadows. Lighting is really complex in a 3D game. Rightfully so, because lighting will really make or break your game. Okay, let's put some objects in this really quickly. And I'm not going to go too much farther. I just want to throw some objects in there and talk about how to move them around, because we're going to do a lot more of this in detail whenever we do our first project, which will be pretty much right after this video. All right, so I'm going to create a new 3D object. I'm going to create a plane. Now, a plane is essentially just a flat plane, and it's what we're going to use for the most part when we're building like the base of our level. So I'll just throw in a flat plane. Now, if I look at my main camera, I can see that my camera isn't actually seeing my plane, right? My plane isn't in the camera's field of view. It's just outside of it, like it's just missing it. So what I can do is grab my plane and then I can move it. Now there are a couple ways I can move it. I can just move it like this, right? Just by clicking on it and moving it, which is fine. The problem is I'm really just moving it on a flat plane, and this is 3D. So I have some other options here. I have my move tool where I can grab the axis I want to move it on and move it there. So I can move it around, move it around, move it around. I can also grab it and move it like this. And then I can also change my position here with my transform. I'm actually going to zero it out again. Let's take a look at the camera. So now my camera is actually seeing it, but my camera doesn't look great. So again, we can move the camera and we can rotate him down. Rotation as well. We can zoom him in, right? So there's all kinds of ways we can play around with moving and rotating. We're going to do a lot more rotating in this class than we did in the 2D class. All right, let's see. Let's throw another object in there just for fun. Let's throw a cube in there. Now notice my cube is now like way far down here. So I'm going to zero him out as well. Okay, now my cube's right in the middle. Now notice that my objects are coming in really blue. That's because I changed my lighting to be more blue. If I change my lighting to be something different, then my colors would change. And in this first project, we're actually going to play around with creating materials for our objects so that they look better and we can give them some variability. Now, one thing you want to pay attention to is how you move things in. Let me zoom in a little bit so it's a little more clear what I'm doing. So if I just grab the move tool here on the y-axis and I just move it up and down, notice that it's really smooth. And my number over in the y-axis and my position is it's moving really, really smoothly. Now, if I zero this out again, and I hold Control, then drag, notice that it's clicking up by a specific amount. For my example, it's 0.25 every time I move it up or down. You can change your snap settings in, oh, there it was, guide or grid and snap settings. Oh, what did I do? Okay, so your snap settings can be changed in here. Right here, I can change my increment snap to be 0.25. Maybe if I want to do it by 1, I can do that. And then whenever I move, it'll move up by 1 every time. So snap settings are really important, especially in 3D, because you want everything to be as flush as possible. Sorry, I'm spitting all over my microphone. You want everything to be as flush as possible, and so changing your snap settings is probably going to be super important. Okay, honestly, a lot of the stuff that we need to know, I'm going to be covering in the next video. I just wanted you to see some of the differences between 2D and 3D. And then when you jump into the Marbles project, we're actually going to build out an entire game. So, you know, I'm really excited. It's going to be super fun. I will see you in that project. Let's get after it.